NBA playoffs are in full swing. Which teams will advance? And we will make our predictions shortly. And teams like the Lakers, the Suns, and the Heat all fell short. What should they be doing this offseason? We will also have 49er expert Mike Wynn join us to talk about the NFL draft and how the 49ers did, and we will get their grades. This and more on Goode Sports. So thanks for watching. And again, if you like what you see and hear, please hit the subscribe button. That helps us get out our content. And as we get more and more things out there for you, we are encouraged every time somebody subscribes. So thank you guys for joining us. It really helps us. So we are halfway through the NBA season, actually the playoffs. And so as we're going through the playoffs right now, we are going to be making our predictions. I am joined by Trent Sneed. We are going to be talking about each of these series and how you think the playoffs are going thus far.
I think this is the first time that we've seen so many star basketball players, especially at this age, no longer in the playoffs. So it's definitely interesting. It's a young man's sport at this point, and we're seeing some new star talent kind of rise above, especially out there in Minnesota. So it's definitely different, and I think it's going to probably take some adjusting too. But nonetheless, it's going to be. I think we were in store for some good playoff basketball still.
Well, let's start off with the East, which is a great matchup. You've got the Pacers and you got the Knicks. Who do you see as advancing in this round?
I think I really like the Knicks right now, Randy. I just don't think they're going to win the NBA Finals with this team, but I think they're close. I think they're to the point now where they still have a lot of their draft capital. And they have a really stacked young team, and they have players that are proving to be stars in the league. So I don't think this is probably their year. Even if they do make it to the finals, I don't think they're going to probably win the finals, just because the West is so stacked at this point. But I think they have potential to be able to go all the way to the semifinals. I can see that for sure.
So you have the Knicks winning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how many? How many games?
Give me the Knicks 4-1.
4-1.
Yeah, I think the Pacers are really not that good.
Oh wow. Okay. So the Pacers to me are a deeper team. They've got some really good players. I mean, Tyrese. They've got Turner. They've got multiple, and they can go deeper. And they get up and down the floor. So I like a lot what they can do. The Knicks, on the other hand, they've got a stud right now. I mean, Jalen Brunson is dominating the NBA right now, and I don't think anybody predicted anything. I didn't, at least. And so very impressed with him. You got Julius Randle. You got some others out there. They only go 7 deep, but they're doing really well. You look in the box score, and you see they are playing long minutes.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that fares, but I'm going to go with the Knicks in 6. Yeah. So I think it might be their time as they are rising. So
yeah, it's just crazy. Dallas gave him away for free. Not for free, but
there is a lot of people. I was watching a lot of the so-called experts, and over and over and over again, they talked about how he's not a 1. He might be a 2, but he's probably a better 3. And now they're all eating crow. So we'll see.
It's not looking good for them.
Next, what do you have for the Celtics versus the Cavs?
Well, I think it would be an absolute destruction of the Celtics if they don't win this.
Yeah.
The Cavs are, once again, I think the Cavs are a good young team with Donovan Mitchell. I think they would have to make some drastic moves to really be in the card for going to the finals. But I think the Celtics, at this point, it's either finals or bust. I don't think anyone's arguing with that at this point. I think if the Celtics don't win the East, there's going to be some major disappointment, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them not necessarily blow it up. I don't want to say blow it up because that's probably way too far. But man, I don't think they go with the same team into next year if they just can't seem to get to that next step. So.
Well, teams overreact all the time when they don't get what they want, which would be beautiful for me because I'm not a Celtic fan at all, and I would love for them to blow it up. But I think this is maybe of all the teams right now that are playing in the playoffs, I think this is maybe the easiest call. I've got Celtics in 5. You do have obviously Donovan Mitchell. You got Garland. You got different players and that are they're going to have to compete against, but they just can't match up with the Celtics right now. So how many games for you?
I'm going 4-0.
4-0. Okay.
I think the only reason Miami got one off them is because you got Eric Spoelstra, one of the greatest coaches in the league right now. So
okay, all right.
Yeah, I think it's 4-0.
4-0. Well, let's move to the West. Mavericks, Thunder. Should be a fun series. Who do you got in that one?
Yeah, man. I think the Mavs still can't play defense, which I think that's what they struggled with last round. Honestly, I think they absolutely just sweep opponents. If they were a team that could play defense well, I just don't think they're built for it at this point. But man, that's a difficult one. I think this is going to be closer than people probably expect, just because you have a star in Luka. I mean, people who don't watch the NBA probably are going to look at this and be like, "Oh, it's an easy win for Luka and Kyrie." But man, I just feel like it's probably going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm going to probably say, I give it to the Mavs in 6. I don't think they go Game 7 just because they have that home court advantage, but I think they get the Mavs in 6.
Mavs in 6. All right. So Luka's awesome. I mean, he's pretty unstoppable right now. You're right on the defensive side. They're terrible defensive players. When you have your 2 stars are both bad, that's not great. But offensively, they are unstoppable. And you do have Kyrie, who has been in this moment, and he's the reason why he's a main reason why they got a ring in Cleveland with his clutch play. So I see really good things for him. OKC's awesome. I think OKC is better. My only concern is they're young, and they haven't been there. And so how they'll do in the playoffs, we'll wait and see. Sometimes teams surprise, but I'm going to pick the Mavs just because you have more experience and you have anyway. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to pick the Mavs in 7.
Yeah, man, that's honestly, I'm just sitting here thinking about it. I'm starting to maybe rethink my decision. Man,
have a conviction.
Oh,
what is it?
Gosh, I don't know.
It's okay.
What's the rookie kid that came in with Wembanyama? What's his name? Chet Holmgren. Holmgren? I think that's how you pronounce it. He is disgusting.
They have several. They have several good players. They're just young.
Yeah, that's
so. How do you do in the playoffs? What
Man,
do you do?
They just have no experience. I mean, OKC's the number 1. They were seeded number 1, right? Can I get a fact checked on that? Okay. Yeah, I'm getting fact checked.
Jalen Williams. Yep.
Okay, man. It's difficult. I feel like if Wembanyama's not in the league this year, Chet Holmgren is obviously Rookie of the Year at that point. So, man, he is talented. Man, I'm gonna say, God, I think I'm gonna change to OKC. I think I'm gonna go OKC.
That works
in
perfect
7.
because then you can say on air you were right both ways.
Yeah, there we go.
No matter what.
Just click.
So is your final answer OKC?
Yeah, no, I'm changing. I'm going OKC in 7.
All right.
I'm sorry to switch.
I'm gonna go
like
OKC as well. No, I'm just joking. I'm gonna stick with the Mavs, and so it'll be nice to have something, and we'll see. So the big matchup, I think, coming up in the West, Denver Timberwolves.
Yeah.
What do you see happening there?
I mean, man, I don't think anyone dethrones Denver at this point. I think they're just too well-rounded. Oh, man, I just don't see it happen, to be honest with you, Randy. I just think there's no way. Denver's good. I mean, they're really good. And the problem is I think the only team that really matched up with them really well was the Lakers. I think they're just too dominant on all sides of the ball. They're going to get in your lane. Yeah, I don't think there's any way. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Okay. So back to OKC first. How many games?
Oh, I had OKC in 7.
In 7? Okay. And then what do you have Denver in?
Oh, I'm going to take Denver. It's a good team, and I think they're going to at least get 2 off them.
Okay.
I'm going to say 6. Yeah,
6 games?
I'm going to say Denver in 6.
I'm going Timberwolves. Yep, I'm going Timberwolves. I'm going with somebody that I absolutely, you just watch. Anthony Edwards is a dog.
Yeah.
He's a killer, and I love that.
Yeah.
And so you've got Anthony Towns, you've got Carl Anthony Towns, you've got Rudy Gobert. You got different players. I mean, you got a nice stacked team, but I go with the dog. And
where are you at on the Michael Jordan relationship?
I have no comment on that, but he has his spirit. I will say he has his spirit, and I'm impressed with that. And so whenever I see that type of thing surrounded by some experience, I'm going with the Wolves over the upset, and so over Denver. Denver's good. I'm interested in seeing Murray and more of that one-on-one action and seeing that intensity and how that goes. So I'm going to go Wolves, and I'm going to go in 7.
I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be the Timberwolves. I mean, if
I'm rooting
anyone's
that.
going to do it, it's going to be the Timberwolves. I mean, Ant is that guy. And you know what I love most? He's walking back from the 3-pointer. He's just talking smack to Kevin Durant.
Don't you love that?
Gosh, fantastic.
Durant was laughing, but he was also in his head. He was like, I don't care who you are, but I'm going to rip your heart out.
The funny thing is Durant even commented it after in the press afterwards, and I'm like, man, I can't imagine ever seeing Durant say the things he said.
No.
Like
he doesn't care.
Even 2 or 3 years ago.
He doesn't
This
care.
is the same guy that goes at it with ESPN hosts. And he's taking it from another player.
Well, even after you see the interview afterwards and he's talking to Karl Anthony Towns and he's just talking to him and he's like, stop fouling.
Yeah.
He's just totally intense. I just love that.
Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
fantastic.
And Towns, I think, is a little afraid of him. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, I won't. I'm a lot older than you, but I won't. I apologize, sir.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who just goes at the throat of one of the greats.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Durant, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
And he's just going to the throat right away. And I love that.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive.
And it's not like
you want to change your vote, don't you?
No, I don't. I'm gonna stick with Denver. I think they're too well rounded. But it's not like what was it like 2 years ago or a year? No, it was a year ago. And the one guy's talking smack to LeBron. Who was that? What team was he on? Gosh darn it! See, that's what happens to people like
For
that.
who are you talking about? LeBron?
Oh man, yeah, he was talking smack to LeBron. He's calling him old and stuff like that.
Oh, he used to play for the Pacers.
Yeah.
Then he played for the Lakers a little bit. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then he blew on his face.
Yeah. People like that die out. No, it wasn't him. This is a different guy. I know who you're talking about. No, not that one. Different guy. Oh gosh,
I've got his face right now, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but people like that, they die out after they do it. You know, because then LeBron comes back and drops 40, and you're like, oh, never mind, that guy is no good. And then you go and watch someone like Anthony Edwards.
Edwards is different.
He's different. He's not the same guy.
No. He doesn't have to use that to get him going. That's just who he is. So
yeah,
I like that. So now let's transition into a new aspect, and it's the teams that didn't make it.
Yeah.
So it's a hard time for people. I mean, everybody wants to be there in the end, and only a few, maybe a handful, maybe 10 teams think, well, if everything goes right, they'll get there. What about your Heat? What should they be doing in the offseason?
Oh, man, this one's a little more emotional for me. I'm so used to Jimmy just being like, we're not going to do anything this year.
Yeah.
And then it hits playoff time, and you're like...
Well, that's what he did in the playoffs this time.
Yeah, he actually meant it this time. Oh, yes. Well, let me see. His name was... Oh, Dylan Brooks. That's who it was. Yeah. He's
you're talking Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, he was talking to LeBron. He's like, oh, yeah, LeBron's washed up and old. After he, shut him down to, 25 points, because LeBron always scores 25 points at least. And then the next game, LeBron dropped 40 on him, and no one remembers him now.
Yeah.
We were thinking of Lance Stevenson.
Stevenson. That's what I was just looking up. Yeah. Yep. Thank you, our production team.
But people like Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is a great example. Yeah. No one remembers that guy anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just done, washed up. Goodbye. Have a good rest of your career. Because this is the thing. If you're gonna talk that smack, you just got to prepare. I mean, you got to be ready for that, and he wasn't ready for that.
So what do the Heat need to do?
Oh man. Okay, so
Butler needs to play. That will help.
Yeah, I'm a little emotional on this one because you see the Warriors who are kind of falling away and they're getting to the age now where you're like, are they ever going to play again together? Mm-mm. And I'm starting to think, is Jimmy getting to that age now? And I don't want to say that on air because then Jimmy will do Jimmy stuff and he'll prove you wrong. But he's 35 now?
He's 34.
34.
And they signed him for next year, and then he's got a player option for the following year.
Yeah, so it's 2 years technically.
Yep.
I saw that. Okay, so.
But he wants to extend it.
Yeah, which, man, I don't know. Knowing Jimmy, he could play till 40. I don't know if he's that guy, but he could. Yeah, honestly, at this point, I think the best decision for Miami is they have to do something that's big. I mean, you either go two routes. You either commit to Jimmy and the years that he has left, and you go and get some superstar to pair with him, whether it's a Paul George or a Kevin Durant or somebody, LeBron James, who knows, comeback tour. Let's see it. Anyways, you go get a superstar, you pair him with Jimmy, and then you hope that it works out for maybe 1 year that you get that championship ring, or You do the Miami Heat thing, which is most likely what they're going to do, and you rebuild at this point. And you figure out, what are you going to do with Jimmy? Can we get him out of here on a good contract? Do we just leave him on contract and we, continue to build up the team while he plays out the rest of his career, and then we wait 2-3 years until it happens? Do we try to get something for him now? But I think no matter what, it's one of those two things. They're either going to have to go grab a superstar in this offseason, or they're going to have to put Jimmy in a position to make them more financially affordable for rebuilding the team at that point. So, or get rid of him just in general.
So what would you do?
Oh, man, I sure do love Jimmy. I don't want to see him go. He's so fun. But I definitely don't want to see Tyler Hero go away. And I think if they make a big move to go get a superstar, you're losing Tyler Hero. And I like Tyler Hero. So I'm going to say you're going to have to probably get rid of Jimmy. Sad days. Gosh, that makes me so emotional.
So you would do that.
That's like picking between your two kids, Randy.
Would you package him for young talent, or would you go for a different superstar?
Oh, man. I'm probably going to package him for maybe a 2 or 3, some younger talent, someone who I think, I think you either go and get him for you could probably get rid of Jimmy and maybe get a number 2 on the team or a number 3, someone who's going to put in 20 points a game, but maybe they're not the most consistent on the boards or assists. Someone like a Tyler Hero, because the problem is at this point, if they get rid of Jimmy, they don't have a number 1.
Right.
They really don't.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to be able to get another number 1 for Jimmy. So at that point, it's what do you do with that, So then you're stuck with Tyler Hero and Bam trying to run the whole team. And it's that's not a recipe for success. So, you're probably going to have to get rid of I think what I would do personally is I would probably just commit at this point and just say, okay, we got to move Jimmy, get something. Maybe a guy that's stuck, a perfect example is Jalen Brunson, someone like that, where you're maybe he's just stuck behind a really good number 1 who takes the ball every day. And then, maybe you have a chance. Yeah.
Find gold. Well, we'll see what the Heat do. They've tried to be relevant for a while. They're off and on, and they've done really well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. No one saw them making it to the finals as many times as they have in the last couple of years. So,
yeah. Well, they've got the coach and they've got the front office, and they're in a good place, and they're a great place for state tax. A lot of players would like to go there. So
yeah, they got some young talent too. I think there's some younger guys on the team right now that could really develop into a really solid starting 5, and we have some bench players that will come back next year, I'm sure. So. The problem is I think their issue right now is almost unsolvable because they don't have a number 1, and I don't think there's any way they give away enough capital to get a number 1. And I think that's their only huge problem right now. You can't really ask for a better support system than a Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin. Those are great players, but they're not the guys where you're I'm going to count on him scoring 40 to 50 if it really matters.
Maybe you'll strike it rich in the draft.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Never know.
So the Suns' season fell short way too early. The season ended for them. And so a lot of disappointment. When you have Kevin Durant, you have Booker, you have Beal, you're expecting way more than that. We are joined by Mike Wynn to talk about the Suns and what do they need to do this offseason. What is your prediction? And thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Randy, for having me back. I'm a diehard Suns fan. It's weird because I'm wearing nothing but Niner gear, but I do support my Suns. But this year, I don't know. I think it was a disappointment the moment we got Beal. I was hopeful, but I don't like when they play these off, when they're playing out of position. Because at the end of the day, you get to play 5 players on the court, but you need a point guard to actually run the offense, and they never had that cohesion. If that makes sense, I don't know, Durant made that complaint at the end of the year where he felt like he was not moving around the offense very much. He just sat in the corner and shot threes. All the games that I watched, I've never felt like there was much passion in that group. There was never much cohesion or chemistry that was built great. Falling short is, it was more of a disappointing season. Couldn't even pull out one game against the T-Wolves, who's inexperienced in the playoffs. It's a pretty inexperienced team. And there's a lot of things I would want to do differently. I mean, my main thing is get rid of Durant, get rid of Beal, and just really rebuild it correctly with Booker and build it through the draft and finding players that meet or mesh with him correctly. So
Do you think they have a dog on their team?
the only dog on their team tore his Achilles, Grayson Allen, and he's been known to be a dirty player, but it is what it is. He was the most passionate player on the court at all times. Booker, he just doesn't have that attitude, but he does. Like he does. You can tell he cares about the game and he's really passionate about the game. But when you see it on the court, it's a little bit different. That fiery, like Booker does have it, but it's not to like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Where you see that emotion, like maybe 5 years ago, the NBA had a lot of, but now it's like kind of everybody. It's AAU basketball.
Yeah, and that's what it kind of. All three of those players, it kind of feels like that. You've got injuries with Beal in the past. You've got Durant. Do you think he can hold up? And do you think he's a full season guy that can be there and be counted on, or do you think is that part of the reason why you think they should move on from him?
Is that Durant or Beal?
Durant?
I think he played. Oh, this year he played more games than he has in the last like 5 or 6 years in a long time, and he did pretty well. So I think as long as they are not overdoing it, and he also doesn't play the super fast game. So, and he's not very, how do you say it? A bruiser. So he's not getting hit as much. So the falls or things, they happen in the NBA because it's physical. Physical, that's the word. He's not super physical. So I think he should be able to, and his game has never been a physical game. So I think a full slate of games is fine. He'll probably end up missing 10 to 15 games a season, which is fine for him.
If they stick with that trio, what would you do to help surround them to help them get to the next level?
Make Durant not a power forward and make him really play at the 3 position.
So would you get some post and whatnot, and that can rebound and go down low with people and play a little more physical, allow him to be more of a finesse outside game? Is that what you'd do?
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you do that, then you'd have Booker at the 1, Beal at the 2, and Durant at the 3. So you just need a good, tough rebounding 4 or a stretch 3 kind of a guy that is tough, Do you remember Jay Crowder a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Where he was like a tough defense guy, get rebounder. He doesn't really care. He plays defense and just kind of just hits people. Like that type of guy.
Yeah.
Serge Ibaka, kind of like dude. But those guys they just come around once in a while and they last for 4 or 5 years, and that's about it because the game gets lost in translation. But for me, they have to find a forward. I don't know where that will be at.
Because it's struggle right now in the draft. They're in a tough situation.
Yeah, I think they have the 22nd pick this year. And anyway, I mean, we know the NBA draft. Anything past number 1 is always a coin flip.
Yeah.
So but I think you can send that off and maybe get a veteran big man back, like he played for the Blazers and he's on the Spurs. Plays alongside Wemby. I forgot his name. He played for Gonzaga.
So do you think going forward, if you were in charge, you would make the decision to get rid of Durant and try to surround Booker with a totally different cast?
I would definitely get rid of Durant, but I would more try to get rid of Beal.
Okay.
But that's kind of impossible because he has a no trade clause and he also has a ridiculous contract.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty long too. I think it's a little 3 or 4 more years or something like that. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So it'd be very difficult to get rid of him for any type of value. And I understand what we were doing there is like either get rid of Chris Paul for nothing or get something in return. But it wasn't just in a good fit. And I like Durant playing alongside Booker, but you don't know who was going to take the last shot of the game. And last year in the playoffs, Booker was unbelievable. I think he averaged like 30 something a game, like 32, 33, shot like 70% from the field or something ridiculously high like that. And he looked like he was going to just take the league by storm this year. And he just kind of took a step back with the new coaching staff and with Beal and playing the one kind of a thing.
Well, the Suns have been close in the past. They've been close in the recent times, and now it might be this might be a time where it might be a while before they get back if they don't do something now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but we'll see in the offseason. You never know. Sometimes teams come out of nowhere with some decisions, and some GMs do some crazy, awesome things, and sometimes teams implode. So we'll see where they're at.
Yeah.
So now it is time for me to talk about my Lakers. This is a hard thing. I've been a Laker fan for a long time, and I want to speak directly to Jeannie Buss because I know I'm sure she has nothing better to do than watch this podcast. But I am as a Laker. I know LeBron has not been totally accepted by all Laker fans. He's done amazing things. He has amazing stats. He's had an amazing career, right? But he is now on the end of his success. He is on his way down, even though it's still been really, really good. If I was the Lakers, I would look right now and say, are you going to win a championship? And I would say he is not going to put them over the edge to win a championship. He's getting older. Father's time is undefeated. So what I would do is I would look at the reality and say you can either be a 7-8 seed, you can be towards the bottom of the playoff teams and be mediocre, or while there's trade value, get him and try to trade him, get picks. I would definitely trade Anthony Davis. I would trade as much as I possibly could. I'd get picks for the future. I'd rebuild, and I would do anything I could to get somebody that has that dog in him, that is a Laker from the very start. That's what they're used to. And so I am begging the Lakers to look at the reality. Sometimes in life you have to know when to fold them, and it is time, in my opinion, to fold them, unless you are okay being a first-round exit, because that's what I see. Denver is killing you. They have killed you over and over and over again. And with Timberwolves on the rise and all these other teams, look right now, think ahead, and please let LeBron go. So that's what I have on that. Now, let's move on to the 49ers. We had the draft a couple weeks ago, joined again by Mike, and I just wanted to get your opinion. We've talked about the draft here a couple times and given my take on that, but I wanted to get your thoughts. What is your overall grade on how the 49ers did this draft?
I'm going to give it an incomplete.
Okay.
And I know people want to grade like an A, B, C.
Yeah.
And after like the initial draft, you give your feelings because you wanted this player, you wanted that player. And after watching the film and understanding, because reality is you can't watch whatever it is, 500 prospects and like all 500. But when you know who you have, you can watch and pay attention how they fit into our scheme. And for example, like Ricky Pearsall, initially I was shocked. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though on this
you did say his name.
I did say his name on this podcast.
Yep.
But and the reason why I said it, I was shocked because there was other options there. Mm-hmm. It's not that I disliked the pick, because if you look at the pick, how it fell out, the next 4 or 5 picks were all wide receivers. So he would have never been there at 64 or whatever it was that we had, or 63. But we drafted a player not because we needed another wide receiver or future proof or whatever. We drafted somebody that fit in the scheme. And that's the same with Pooney, Mustafa, and those guys fit what we do. Looking at it, like, when I say incomplete is because I don't understand some of the picks, and I do understand a lot of the picks. Ricky Pearsall, to me, fits exactly what we needed. I'm looking back at our Super Bowl. when we played the Chiefs, one of the problems we had is we couldn't get open. There's one that got open, or kind of got open, and he was getting bracketed and all that stuff in Brandon Ayuk. And so we needed an elite route runner or a very good route runner to get off man coverage. And that's what he brings. He's going to move the chains for us. So when we're in that 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 5 or even 2nd and 9, he's going to get that 5-6 yards to make 3rd down shorter or make it more possible, because they just played man across the board on us, and then they brought down one of the safeties to help, cover Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, so to load up the box. Now, I know you don't want to draft just to beat one team, but this team beat us twice in the Super Bowl. So, and then looking at him, like, if you just look at his just raw numbers for Ricky Pearsall, he's a 4'4" guy. He has...
Can jump out of the gym. He's a freak.
Yep, and he had not just the best 3-cone, he has like one of the record-breaking 3-cones. And you put it together, and if you just looked at his profile, great hands, phenomenal route runner. Like, so why was he so... It's because he's a 5th-year senior. He's a little bit older. He just doesn't look like a 6'1", 190-pound receiver, but that's what he is.
I think also their quarterback at Florida wasn't very good.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that hurt him.
Yeah.
That might have helped. And that's what I'm hoping, is that maybe he fell a little bit because of the quarterback play and that he didn't have those great stats. Did you see C.J. Stroud's reaction?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he freaked out. And he was kind of quiet the whole time, like, pick made. And then as soon as he did, he was just overwhelmed. Like, no, I wanted that guy.
Yeah.
So he saw something. Right. That's impressive.
Because they were coming up on a pick not soon after. So
Yep. Yeah. So when you look at what Debo did in the Super Bowl, and you could see he didn't get off the line, he wasn't getting open. I'm sure that's there. The thing that is hard for me is I think that did make a difference, but not blocking made a bigger difference to me.
Right.
And I struggled with the fact that they wouldn't have used one of their 3 4th-round picks, moved up just a little, and got a tackle. I would have loved them to have got that. I'd have loved them to get to the Oregon Center. I think Puny will be great. I think they've got a safety that could be there for a long time. Mustafa, I think he looks really good. I think Renardo Green looks like he can play. The problem for me was these players were all picked, were projected to go later.
Yeah.
And so they pick them before they're projected. So when I look at a team and how they do in the draft is, do you fill a need? And I think Ricky Pearsall might fill a need in a year, not this year, but next year.
Right.
So they didn't do anything this year to help them as much. He's only going to, I bet he catches 15 balls this year. Yeah. I don't see that he's going to catch much. And they desperately need an offensive lineman. But their guys that they picked were mostly picked later or projected to go later. So it's hard to know, when you don't know. If Pearsall ends up being a stud, it doesn't matter where they pick him. So that's what you probably mean by incomplete.
Yeah, and Puny to me, like, that was one that, like, Ronaldo Green, I was confused by.
Yeah.
We texted back and forth, and I was like, who is this? Because I looked at corners quite a bit, because we were in range to move up a little bit to get the top corner in the draft.
Yeah.
And one of the things was I was looking at it, and I never really heard of him. And then I went and looked at the tape, and when you draft somebody that's about potential or whatever it may be, you want to draft somebody that's like really good at something. Yes, he's a poor man coverage guy. He doesn't have phenomenal speed, but he was one of the highest, or not the highest, graded man coverage corner. And he's off press, and so, on press and man coverage. So there's that elite trait there. So now you can work in the other things. So you can start off as slot, or maybe even put him at free safety, because we need a free, like, we have 3 box safeties essentially, and he can play that. But once that pick came in, I was really confused by that one, That's the one that kind of threw me off. Not that I don't like the pick, because after I watched it, because I actually threw on the Florida versus Florida State game.
Oh,
Pearsall didn't really go against him that much there, because Pearsall was moved all over the place. Ronald Green was just on one side. He was on that side. And he just locked up whoever was on that side. And he did a good job. I mean, the first play, I think he did get beat by this freshman who was real tiny, but after that, he locked up whoever was on that side.
and he hits hard, which fits our system, which is good. What'd you think of the 5th pick or the 4th round pick where we used 2 picks to move up to get a running back who doesn't even start
Yeah,
at
he
the
started one
college
game.
level?
He started one game, the very last game of the season.
And you're going to use 2 picks to trade up to get a non-college starter. So what'd you think of that? I know he's fast. He's blazing speed, but I was a little... I think we did need a running back. I think that was good to pick a running back, but what'd you think?
I like the profile. I didn't understand the production.
Yeah.
Like,
If you don't start
Yeah.
at college...
that doesn't make sense. But then they picked up an undrafted free agent who was the leading rusher for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that looked better.
And he tested very poor. Like, I think he tested so bad that he didn't get drafted, but yet he was I think the leading rusher in college football, and not in college football, but I think Division I, and he played in the SEC. So that's like huge. And yeah, you can see that in his game tape. I forgot his name, but he would break through holes and just has great vision, but then he would just get chased down because he wasn't super fast. But Isaac Guerrero, the running back, he's also a really good pass catcher. So he ran pretty decent routes, but he has good hands and soft hands. He's not a body catcher. He's a natural hands catcher. And I think he played wide receiver.
And I wonder if they'll use him for will they in that role a little bit and move him out? So we'll see.
And they said he's a willing blocker. So if it is like blitz pickup, things like that, he is going to just put his helmet into whoever's the off blitzer or whatever, whoever gets past, so he can have that final defense for Brock.
So I'm going to ask you, go out on a limb. Tell me what your grade is right now. I know you said incomplete because all these drafts are always incomplete, but if you had to guess right now, do you like the picks or where are you at?
I do like the picks. I would say I would give it around a solid B, maybe leaning towards a B plus. It's if you give it like a grade, high school grade, an 85 is a solid B,
Yeah.
I would give it like an 87.
Okay.
Like that's where I would be, like 87.2.
Yeah, okay.
Like not quite a B plus, but not just. And the reason is because like I do see what they were doing.
Sure.
And if you don't
outside of the offensive line more,
right?
I do, because they did need these other things. They did need a running back. They did need a receiver for the future. I think they took care of their defensive backfield, which is going to be totally empty next year.
Oh, yeah.
So they had to do some things there. So they did do some good things. But we'll see. We'll see going forward.
And the 2 linemen that they picked specifically because there was only 4 guys in this entire draft that met Kyle Shanahan's 3-cone requirements, and they drafted 2 of them.
Interesting.
So the other one was a 5th rounder from...
I wish one of Kyle's requirements were to block against the pass on the right side. I'd like him to move that up on his list of priorities, but I'm sure Brock Purdy's right arm would like that too. But
oh yeah.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll see how things go and find out if the 49ers, hit big or if it was a swing and a miss. So thanks for joining us. And again, if you like what you see, please subscribe. We'll be back next week. We are going to be, you can listen to us at 11 o'clock. We will be on the air each time on Wednesdays. So please look for that, and we will have more to come. So thank you very much for joining us. Until next time.